because that unicorn horn, I was like, oh dear God, my mother's gonna say this looks like a, you know what?
Crystal, welcome back to Real Talk with Star Scorpio. How you doing today?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. How are you?
Good, good. And for everyone that's watching, Crystal was my 10th guest on season 1 of Real Talk. Very funny episode, amazing. Got to learn about you in stand-up comedy. Today, we're going to talk about your cake business, and it's more than cakes. It's you do everything. So sweets. And I have a very special guest host, Mrs. Scorpio. So
Yes.
Tasha, you can say hi to everyone.
Hello.
Yes. And we ran a cake business for 20 years. So I thought it was only fitting to have her on here. All right. So Crystal, first thing, what inspired you to start baking? That's what I want to know, the ground level.
You know what? It was, I can cook and I can bake. I did that, you know, I'm a good Indian wife is what they call me. Okay, I can do all that. But the pandemic hit and there was really nothing to do but sit with your thoughts and your children. And I started cooking a lot more, and then I started baking a lot more. Okay, no, I started eating a lot more. Is what it actually was.
Yeah.
And, you know, I just ate and ate until I was like, you know what? I had a realization. I realized I was depressed, which is not a thing a person of color, you know, is used to, because my mom would be like, depression? What are you talking about? Like, that's not a thing. You're fine. You're Indian. You don't get depressed, right?
Right.
So for me, I had to come to that realization. And then I had to ask myself, well, why? I get it. It's a pandemic, but I wanted to pinpoint. There was something underlying. I was like, you know what? I am missing comedy so much that it's like I'm mourning the stage. You know, I'm going through those phases where you're like angry and then you're hurt, you're upset. And I, you know, food was my comfort. And once I realized all those things, I was like, okay, you know what? Like let's do something about this. And I used to bake for people that just asked me, you know. One of my good friends, her good friend, it was her birthday, and she asked me to make these cupcakes that she saw on Instagram. And I was like, okay, whatever, I'll try. Okay. So they were just, you know, pretty simple. And then they had these like liquor shots in them. So I was like, all right, cool, yeah. So I did them not thinking anything of it. And she sends me $50. And I was like,
okay.
$50 for a dozen cupcakes? And then the Indian in me is like, wait a minute, numbers.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm like, could this be a business? And especially because we're all home, you know, we all want food or sweet things to make us feel better. So I'm like, maybe I can turn this into a business. And I sat down, looked at the numbers. It made a lot of sense. And that's how my baking business started.
Yeah, because, okay, so that was like one of the questions. I'm glad you said that, because I was going to say, do you remember the first cake you did or cupcake you did for someone? Because I think Tasha, too, it started off with someone, a family or friend, right, Tash?
Well, when Krista was 2 years old, I wanted to do a cake for her. So I did Barney, and it wasn't very good. I mean, it was pretty hideous, but I enjoyed like making all the different colors, and I realized, oh, this is kind of fun. So then eventually I did a few more cakes, and some of my really close friends would ask me to do it for their kids. And then it kind of just snowballed from there. And eventually I would be like, okay, maybe I should at least charge them for the ingredients. And then it kind of went on, okay, no, I have to charge a little more. So yeah, it kind of progressed naturally. So, but I definitely have to have a passion. I started doing it more and more because I liked it.
Now that you say that, I actually remember my first cake, and oh my goodness, it was so awful. I think it was my mom asked me to do a cake for like a family picnic, and it was Canada Day. It's like, yeah, no problem, I can do that. And I remember struggling so hard to ice that maple leaf on the cake. And I was like, okay, this is the best I can do. You know, I thought everything was fine. And then I bring the cake. My mom was literally mortified because she's like, it looks like marijuana. Happy Canada Day. Let's smells like a dude, but it tasted good. It tasted good. So there.
Yeah. But I bet you other people didn't say that. They probably said, "Oh, great job." Like we're so hard.
Everybody was like, "I think we should check on Crystal." She's doing things she should not be doing. She should focus on her books, like that's basically it.
But I have a question for you.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Have you done any formal training or like taken any courses or anything like that when it comes to decorating?
I've done literally nothing. Yeah, self-taught. I looked at a lot of YouTube videos and I just practiced. So I would use, I think one of the YouTube videos were like use mashed potatoes and do it on a plate or wax paper and things like that. And I would practice on anything I could because it's hard. You can't just always make a cake to practice, especially if you're trying to sell it. So I would just literally spend nights watching YouTube videos and it was really therapeutic, to be honest. It also gave me an outlet for my creativity. That was the main thing. Because during the pandemic, if I couldn't do comedy, I was not a good person. We need that outlet to be better people, I find. And so when my kids went to bed at night, I sat down and I put on my iPad and watched some videos and then I just practiced on wax paper. So yeah.
I like that.
Amazing.
Like that. Yeah. And it's so weird when you find something you're good at too. Like there's so many hidden talents that people have. And I scroll through your Instagram and I just admire some of the cakes that you've done. And I just scroll and scroll and you just keep clicking. And it's not only cakes, it's cupcakes too. It's everything. Yes. And just on the side, you do cake pops too?
I haven't done cake pops yet, but I do, like if somebody requests something, then I'll do it. So I'm not as active in my business as I am now because there are so many things going on. Comedy is open back up. So instead of pushing stuff, when somebody requests something from me, then I'll do it. No problem.
Yeah.
But I haven't tried cake pops yet. They look good though.
Yeah. Well, Tasha could, anytime you need help, just let Tasha know. After 20 years, cake pops is one of the things that people were asking for. So Tash, remember when you started doing the cake pops, right? The challenges.
The biggest problem with cake pops is that it's very hard to make the money you should make off them because they're labor intensive. So they look great. But when you say to someone, this cake pop is going to be $3 or $4, people don't understand it's a 2-bite item. So, but the labor that goes into it, they're quite tricky sometimes. Like you have to have right temperatures because once you put them in the freezer and you take them out, the temperature causes them to expand. So then it cracks the chocolate. You've got to redo them. So in the end, they look great and you're happy with the product usually once you learn how to do them, but they're not necessarily worth it when it comes to money. But
yes. And I find that even with cake pops, they've evolved so much. So we've gotten cake pops and we were happy with just a little ball on the stick. Do you remember those days? When it's like, okay, that's the cake pop. Oh my God, this is something new. This is so cool. Let's get these cake pops. Now they're like popsicles, heart shapes, like characters shapes, characters. Like, oh my goodness.
They can get really, like sometimes people will charge $10 the cake pop. Depending on what they look like, right? Like what goes into it. So
So Crystal, so you said, okay, you did your first cake and you said, okay, let me take up this passion hobby in the pandemic. How did you come up with the name? So Crystal Loves Sweets. How did you come up with that name?
Because I'm just a heifer, Peter. I don't know what to tell you. It is what it is. It's like what I would think of stuff. I'm like, okay, Crystal's cakes, but there's already a Crystal's cakes. And then, I didn't want to just be cakes. And then I'm like, Crystal's cupcakes. That sounds like a boob joke. I'm like, I can't do that. And I'm like, what can I do? Because, the comedic mind is always there. You have to make sure. And then, I think my husband was like, oh man, Crystal loves sweets. Like, she's just like, she loves sweets. And I'm like, okay. Oh, I like how that sounds. Wait a minute. You know what? Crystal loves sweets because I do. And I make things that I like and they made sense. So
nice. Now, when we talk about pricing, this was one of the hardest challenges for us. So tell me a little bit about that because, we have the relatives or the close friends where you don't want to charge. Sometimes, again, like Tasha was saying, you just charge for ingredients.
Yes.
And then sometimes when you're starting out, you don't know what to price at. You don't know what a cake's worth because of the time you put in. And that's where I would always say, you know what? Treat it like an hourly job too, Tash. Like,
absolutely.
What will you charge this person? So tell me a little about your pricing.
Yeah, for me, like I said, I'm a numbers girl, so it had to make sense. And I wasn't going to waste time because I can do other things for money, for income. Right. So that didn't sound right at all. Wait a minute. Here we go. Now my mother's going to be like, did you get it OnlyFans? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let me start over.
Yeah.
There are other ways, as a comedian or as a person of different talents, I could use my talents and get some income, right? You could do Zoom shows, for example. You could do so many things. Mm-hmm. And no disrespect, you could do an OnlyFans too. Like, I admire the hustle. It is what it is, right? Yeah. But for me, when I looked at the numbers, I had to make sure, yes, of course, your ingredients are covered. Mm-hmm. And then I looked at the hours that I took to make these orders. And then something that I do that a lot of people don't do is I personally deliver. So I do everything. I buy my ingredients, I make my cakes, and then I jump in my car, I pack them, and I go deliver. So you'll see my face, right. A masked face, of course. But I would have to factor that in. So I live in an hour away from the GTA right now. So it would, you're covering my gas, you're covering my time to be out there, you're covering my time to, like, Tasha will know this, but like back here, there's so much pain when you're doing so many cakes and so many cupcakes, because you're like, focused and there's tension. So I'm like, these people have to pay for my pain. Right. This is what it is. So, and of course, you're going to have some people that are like, oh my goodness, like, okay, people are nice. They'll go, oh, okay, thank you, that kind of thing. But that's fine with me. I'm not going to do something for a lower price just because I want the sale, because my time is worth way more. So that's how I used to decide. And it's funny, there are still people doing baking businesses that are losing money over and over and over. And people have come to me and asked, how do you price your stuff? And I'd show them, like, I have spreadsheets, this is your ingredients, this is your timing, are you delivering, this is your gas, and, your mileage, the insurance on your car. There's so many things you got to factor in, right? So yeah, pricing is tricky, but it's definitely worth it.
You are smarter than I was. Even after 20 years, I didn't fully figure it out, as far as, because I'm a people pleaser and I'm a really nice person. And not to say you're a very nice person, but
I'm not. Okay.
You are. You definitely are. But we would sometimes deliver for people in the beginning and not charge anything at all. But then Peter, of course, like he said, he talked to me about labor and about delivery and things like that and all the costs that are involved. So yeah, the fact that you deliver everything, it's better in some ways for sure. I always get nervous with deliveries because of the chances of damage. But then on the other side, if someone's picking it up, you give them instructions, they don't follow it properly, and then something happens and then they expect something from you. So there's a lot of different aspects that go in, or things that go into that. So yeah, we definitely had challenges with that. But the fact that you kind of you have it figured out and you said, okay, every cake I'm going to do, I'm going to deliver it. And then this is the price. If you're not happy with it, or if you can't afford it, that's fine. We'll just move on.
Yes.
And on to the next person. So I definitely struggled with that. It wasn't so much about wanting to have the sale. For me, it was more like, I hate saying no to people. I always try to figure out how I can make it work, but then I compromise myself all the time. So you definitely get tired of that. That's one of the reasons why I stopped, because it just became, what am I doing this for? Am I doing it more for others than myself and my family? Because you sacrifice a lot in businesses like this.
Yeah.
True. So true.
So I just want to ask too now. So your kids, so, we did the cakes for our daughter all the time, right? So your kids, are they happy that mommy gets to make the cakes for them?
Oh yes, like my older daughter is the biggest diva. She's like, when's my birthday coming? Is it coming soon? Is it,
Yeah.
and if it's like a month away, she's like, okay, mommy. She'll change her mind every week and drive me nuts. She's like, mommy, I want an LOL doll. I want it to be 2 tier because she watches cake shows with me. So she learns all this language. And I'm like, oh, why am I doing this to myself? She's like, I would like the filling with custard and I would like fondant icing. And I'm like, no, please. Like, we're not doing this. But my favorite part is to see their face when they see the cake, right? Because we don't get to see our clients' faces when they open up that box or when they show their children or whatever it is. So I was missing that when I delivered to clients, but with my kids, I could see that they were so happy and that sparkle in their eyes. So yeah, my kids love that I bake. But they're always like, can I have a piece of that? I'm like, no, because that's for another kid's birthday party. And then my daughter's like, can I go to that party? I'm like, no.
Aww, so cute.
So yeah.
So what was your most challenging cake? Because, you know, when we started the cake business, it was your simple, whatever, round cake, your simple wedding cake. And things got crazy when Cake Boss came around and all those cake shows and Duff's cakes. What was your most challenging cake so far?
I would probably say I did a Hulk cake. I see. And they wanted all green inside. And, you know, it was hard because usually I try to find some way to maybe put a topper on or that kind of thing. And I couldn't really find something that I really liked. So I made every detail with fondant with my hands. And so that was difficult, but it turned out so nice. And the boy was so happy. So that's the best part, right? Even though it's hard and it's stressful. I don't know about you, but it's so stressful sometimes making a cake. Like my chest hurts because, you know, you're just like, oh God, is this hair off center or should it be like, and I'm a perfectionist. I'm actually a little bit crazy and I know I have OCD, but that helps, I guess, with cake making, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But definitely that Hulk cake was the hardest, but by far my favorite because when you accomplish it, you feel so good about it, you know?
Yeah, Tasha could attest to that, boy.
Yes. Oh, definitely. You have to tell, like, I know when it comes to really dark colors, the icing can become bitter and it can stain the teeth. And red is actually not good for children, especially to consume. But some people are like, no, I want that Elmo cake and I want it to be all red inside and out. And you're like, oh, for buttercream, that's not actually good for your kids. And they're like, I don't care. Yeah. So for me, I would actually refuse to do certain cakes like that because I know what the results would be. Have you ever found that you've had to say no because of what someone wanted?
Oh yeah, for sure. You know, those reasons, yes, I give the warning. And if it's like a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, I'm like, you know, I don't know if that's best. And then I try to use fondant, you know, then I don't have to diet as much. But also sometimes you meet people that you know you can never please them. And I'm pretty good at kind of getting that right off the bat. And so I'm also okay with saying, you know what, I think this cake is out of my capability. Because I know, even though I can make a beautiful cake, I know that certain people will never be happy. So I'm also okay with that, you know, to say no.
I've learned that the hard way.
Yeah. Yes.
So that's good that you do that. It definitely, it's the right decision. You seem to have that instinct. So that's really important.
Definitely.
Yeah. And Crystal, you talked about that. I had the question about anxiety. So I've witnessed Tasha with the breakdowns and stuff, and I had to be there for her because I'm there. I'm the delivery guy, by the way.
Yeah.
And and covering the fondant with the color and kneading and everything. But anxiety, have you had a real attack where it's like, you don't know if you can finish this cake and it's like, what do I do?
Yes. For me, a cake is not too bad because yes, it's stressful, but I always give myself enough time. My thing is when I do bulk orders, so at like Christmas, when I have, like I had my Christmas tins where I have like 4, 5, 6 different cookies and different treats in one box, and I'm starting to make dough from like 5 days before, putting it in the freezer, and then baking and then decorating. I'm like, oh my goodness. But I know Christmas time, I always try to do my deliveries on like the 22nd. So I don't sleep. The 20th, 21st, 22nd, I don't sleep. I get it all done and I'm miserable. And I'm like, stay away from me, family, because I got to get this done. Leave me alone. Don't ask me for nothing. Ask your dad, leave me to do what I got to do. And then after the 22nd, I'm like, okay, Merry Christmas, everybody. I'm happy again, because that's the most stressful, because like I said, I deliver them myself. I had to deliver, I think, 50 tins by myself. Oh, wow. So I'm driving all over the GTA. I think I delivered for 2 days, all over the GTA. And, even organizing your deliveries, crazy. Being one person doing that, it's crazy. But I like to do it in the end. Don't get me wrong. I do like to do it. So that's the time I find the most stressful.
Have you ever had to hire help? Anyone
Never.
to help you? No.
Or consider it? I'm very A-type, very controlling. And even when I ask, like, for example, my sister-in-law, she'll laugh. But when I see her decorating, or even I'll give you a story. So there was I made a pistachio cookie with a brown butter icing, and all you had to do was dip the pistachio cookie, which is a little round cookie, dip it in the brown butter icing, and then just leave it on the rack, to dry. And I was like, yeah, she could do this. And then I find myself looking at her from the corner of my eye. I'm like, oh my God, I can't. Like, and I'm like, because like, when you dip a cookie in icing and you pick it up, there's like, you want to see this is crazy. This little bit of a whoop with the icing. It looks so cute. It's just a little whoop. And people think I'm crazy. I know people are watching this being like, what is this girl talking about? Because even my husband, he's like, I don't see a difference. There's a difference between the cookies I made and that she made. I'm like, you know what? Thank you for your help. And she's like, really? Okay, I'll leave now. Like, I'm sorry, I'm crazy. I know, I'm sorry. But yeah, I can't. I have to do everything by myself. And that's my choice. So I have to suffer with that. Yeah. But I'd rather just do everything by myself.
Yes. I told you I'm nice. Yeah. But when I was in the thick of it, like when you're talking about, I was not nice. Peter tried to pipe one time and I'm like, you can't pipe. And he was just trying to help me. And it was just, in those moments, I'm not very nice, but I'm definitely a perfectionist as well. So I think you have to be in this type of business.
Right. I think we all are in this business. We all are. You're right. Yeah.
So Crystal, this one thing I got to tell you, we overcommitted. Well, Tasha overcommitted to a cake. A party, and it was for an Indian.
Here we go. Okay,
yes, for their 1-year-old son, and I didn't know what Tasha was thinking. I was at work, and Tasha committed to, and you can tell Tasha, I don't know how many cakes, how many cupcakes, how many cake pops, but it was way too much for just us two.
Yeah,
and I had to ask people from work to come over after work, and we just put them to work. But Tasha, you could just quickly summarize that story. That was nerve-wracking.
So very quickly. So we did, Peter and I, we signed up for like a street fair type of thing to promote the business.
Big on Bloor.
And pardon? Yeah.
Big on Bloor. Yeah.
Big on Bloor. Yes, that's what it was called, right? Yeah, I don't know. You have such a good memory. Anyway, that day was horrendous. It was like torrential rainpour. It was a horrible day, but fortunately, like, we had an umbrella and stuff. So there was a couple of people that came and we were giving away cookies. I had decorated cookies. And so this one lady came and she took a couple cookies and she took my card, and she was an Indian lady and she ended up being my client for many, many years. But she asked me to do Broby. I don't know if you remember who Broby was. It's a character, but it wasn't like as popular as Elmo or anything like that, but it was popular at the time. So I had to go to her house and provide a tasting for her and her family. So I did cake, cookies, and something else. I can't remember. It was so long ago. But the reason why I overcommitted was because she kept increasing the order. So she ordered this cake And then she ordered cookies on sticks. She ordered individual cakes for each of her guests. So it ended up being like 50 individual cakes. And then some of them, it turned out they had to be egg-free.
Yeah.
So it turned into this big thing and stuff that I had never done before, because this is back when I was early into it. So I was still learning, and I've never committed to something and not, performed or like not delivered on the order. But in the end, although I had so much help from people at MedAlert, shout out to those wonderful ladies who really came through for us. I mean, they're not decorators, right? So they did the very best they could. But in the end, I wasn't overly happy with what I produced, but it was too much. She ended up continuing to order from me. I think it's because I way undercharged her. Like, I think I charged her $900 for all that, but it should have been
thousands,
like double that. Like it was absolutely ridiculous. And we had to deliver and set up everything. And it was a big learning experience for me about, limitations and things like that.
Yes.
Because you don't want to deliver something that you're not proud of, right?
Of course.
It's better to refuse. But it was a difficult situation because she kept increasing the order.
That is difficult. You're right. Because then at that point, what are you supposed to say? Because you're stuck, you can't say no to something and then you go, I'll make the rest of it though. You just feel like you have to say yes. So I totally understand. Wow.
Yeah.
So Crystal, you understand, right? Like Indian weddings, first birthday, things like that. Do you have any stories?
I don't do that. I don't do wedding stuff because I'm like, that's too much pressure.
Okay.
I've been asked to do wedding stuff and I've said no, too much pressure. Yeah. And like I said, if it's like a cake that is out of my realm, I'm like, nope, sorry, can't do that. Because certain people want what's trendy and they don't really understand. Like, I don't know if you've seen these with the fresh flowers on them. Okay. But they're made of sugar. The flowers are made of sugar. And that's also a technique that I haven't even tried yet. So I'm like, I can't do edible flowers, but I can put fresh flowers on them. She's like, no, I really want edible. Okay, I'm sorry. I can't do that. But yeah, I'm really, really, I mean it when I say, like, I will not take something that's out of my realm because I can't stress myself like this. It's not worth it. It's not worth it. That's what I say.
Okay. I get it.
Yeah.
So that means your main focus is your comedy, and then
at the moment, I do take whatever order that's given to me. If it's special requests, I'll do it as long as I'm capable of doing it, meaning the artistry of it, not the time. Okay. Right. So I will take it. But yeah, I'm busy. Like, I'm doing comedy, I'm writing, I'm working my kids right now too. Like, they're doing modeling and acting and things like that. Wow. So I'm doing a lot. And so I'm so grateful that the cake business was there during the pandemic. And really flourished during the pandemic because it gave me my sanity. Yeah, literally gave me my sanity. But it is kind of one of the things I do now. It's not like right at the front. It's one of the things I do now.
Yeah, it's not the focal point.
No.
Yeah. So do you have something to add, Tash?
Oh, I was just going to ask, because when you said, I was really impressed with when you said that you had 50 deliveries at Christmas time. How did you build your clientele to that level? Is it word of mouth or?
Yeah, I would find that, my bigger customers, they are all in the GTA because I still live there. So, and I mean, I could kind of join the groups where I live now on Facebook and advertise to them. But because people knew me, when people know you, they don't ask for taste tests. They don't ask, to do these wild things. They just like, oh, you know what? Make whatever you want. It's my birthday and do your thing. Okay. And I love that, because they're always happy with what I make, and there's no pressure, there's no stress, that kind of thing. So for me, yes, the GTA of people I knew, and then those people would take my stuff to parties and then word of mouth. Oh, I know this girl that makes these amazing cupcakes or whatever it is. And I find that the liquor cupcakes are not, a lot of people don't do them. I don't know for what reason. Maybe because of the little squeezy thing that you literally get on Amazon in a bag of like 500.
Yeah.
But people are not thinking that way. So a lot of people do like the liquor cupcakes. And I find like that's my biggest seller.
Okay.
That's actually my favorite thing to make. I mean, it sounds like I'm an alcoholic, but I'm like, yeah, this is good. It's just different. And it's a bougie way of taking a shot, right? You put it in your cupcake and then you eat your cupcake instead of just being like,
yeah.
Yeah, I've never even thought of it. I've never done them. I've never even thought of it. So yeah, it's a great idea.
Yeah. So that people love that. And yeah, I think that word of mouth, especially, I think the most important thing is your stuff tastes good, right? Or if your stuff tastes good, because I remember buying a unicorn. Remember when unicorn cakes were big?
Big, huge.
So I bought a unicorn cake for my daughter's first birthday. I had one child. When you have your first kid, you're like, you spend whatever money. It's her first birthday. Who cares? This lady charged me, I think, $175. And it wasn't worth it, let me tell you, because it wasn't that big. Right. And it looked okay, but you could tell that she was trying to work out her artistry, because that unicorn horn, I was like, oh dear God, my mother's going to say this looks like a, you know what? Okay. So it was just not done. It was like a lot, you know what it looked like.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, here we go. It's like a penis head horse. I don't know what this is.
Yeah.
But I'm like, it probably tastes good. And it did not taste good. It was dry.
It's so disappointing.
Yeah, it was so dry. And you could tell because people at the party would eat some and then like there was all pieces left, because it wasn't good. And I'm like, we spent $175 of our hard-earned money. And this cake was so disappointing. It's like, I can do better. I can do this,
Yeah.
So I think that if it tastes good, I think people are like, oh my goodness, like let's tell this person that this person bakes, and let's tell this person that these stuff, they taste amazing. And that's my main focus is if it tastes good, you'll just keep getting business.
Definitely people are more forgiving when it comes to like, they'll put aside the decorating a little bit when it comes to as long as the flavor is good. And once you have that down, you can practice, like you said, right?
Yes.
You're practicing your techniques and things like that, but you have to have a taste.
Exactly. And I find that's the case. Like if something's beautiful, you'll buy it, but you'll only buy it once. And you won't tell other people to buy it because it's like you're consuming that. This is something you're putting into your body. It's got to taste good. So.
Yeah, it's not sustainable when it doesn't taste good for sure.
Yeah.
And how long did it take you to get to a level of piping skill where you can just pump out things? Because in the beginning, you probably take your time more. And like Tasha told me, I can't pipe, right? So how is it for you? Like you could just knock it out now? Like when it comes to piping?
Now I'm good. But to be honest, there's always new techniques, right? So I have like my favorite style of cake that I like to make. And then there's always new techniques to try. And then that takes a little bit longer. But I find that even when I get new techniques now, I'm more confident. So it helps with the speed of it. Yes. As before, I'm sure you've had like the shaking hands and you're like, okay, I'm going to sweat on this cake. And you're just like, oh my gosh. But now I'm confident. So it goes much quicker.
Mm-hmm. And I remember there was a cupcake boom. Like we were doing cakes. It was like pure cakes. And once in a while we'd do cupcakes. Yeah. I don't know what show it was or whatever, but cupcakes were a big thing.
Big thing.
What do you like making more? Is it the cupcakes or cakes?
Cupcakes, 110%. Cupcakes, I love. I don't even like making cakes. I'll be honest. Like I don't. I'm just like, I'll make them, sure, but I love to make cupcakes. That I was thinking of considering changing my business to cupcakes only, to be honest, because I love making cupcakes so much. And
just the profit margin is higher too. Like when you think
definitely higher, the timing, right? The timing and how quick you can make a dozen cupcakes in just one shot, right?
Yeah.
And a cake, you're like, okay, the layers, and I gotta put them in the fridge, freeze them, then I gotta ice them. Like that's a lot, right? But also cupcakes gives me more freedom, I find. To mess with flavors and fillings in cupcakes and adding the liquor to a cupcake and, doing different things. So I like the freedom of a cupcake.
Okay.
I mean, cupcakes can get complicated as well. Like when you have to do special toppers, like say, for example, Marvel characters or something, and you do them all by hand, they take a long time. So sometimes you have to explain to people, okay, for sure, I can do it, but you have to consider the labor involved in the toppers.
Yes.
So,
yeah, for sure.
But they're fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I enjoy cupcakes a lot. And that's how come my weight came back to what it was before summertime when me and Tasha lost the weight.
Rough out here, man.
It's rough out here. The last thing I want to know, accidents. So we had a cake accident where Tasha made the cake, and my friend, I think it was Lamin, maybe was over at the house, and we just came in and I was ready to deliver the cake. And Tasha came to show me the cake. It hit the back of the chair. Tasha dropped the cake. And then we had to, she had to make it again.
Oh, that's rough.
Have you had any accidents where it's like, oh my God, you got to start all over?
Yeah, thank goodness I've never had a cake accident, because when I put so much effort into a cake, I'm like, stay away from me. Like, I'm crazy, like, don't come in the kitchen to the kids, So cakes, I'm good. But cupcakes, for sure, I've had where you make your, I made, I think 5 dozen for this party. And then I think my daughter just walked by me and knocked my elbow or knocked the table, and one fell and it fell splat like on the icing side. I'm like, are you serious? For one cupcake, I have to make a whole, oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's one thing you learn, that you always make extra. Cookies, cupcakes. Yeah, always.
Yes, exactly. I used to avoid making extra because I would just eat them. I'm like, if I do make extra, I make a couple of extra now, but yeah, that was my main reason. I'm not making extra because I'm gonna sit there and eat them.
Oh, really? I rarely eat what I make.
I know.
When it comes to baking, I don't. I'm just smelling it all the time. I don't have the interest.
Oh, good for you. I don't know. Maybe I need some help or something.
No.
You don't understand. I started the business because I would just eat it all in the beginning, So for me, it's like, I'm going to eat these. I'm going to eat these. And it's just like, but I'm working on it.
Yeah. So Crystal, there's something new I added for season 2. I'm going to show you 2 cards, and they have different questions on them. And you just pick which one you want to answer.
Okay.
But before I do, I got to say, I'm proud of you. You're an inspiration to a lot of people. Just what the effort you put in all the things that you do. It motivates me to do more. You know what I mean?
Thank you.
Okay. My left hand or my right hand? Which question do you want?
I'm going to go your right hand.
What is one of the most memorable moments of your life?
Like my whole life?
Yeah. Pick one.
That's a hard question. Like I'd have to say giving birth to my first daughter, for sure. Yeah. Because you don't know what you're getting into, first of all.
Yeah.
And people that have children, they're like, it's a beautiful thing. And, it's lovely. It's something like nothing else. But you don't actually understand that until you're holding this child in your arms that just came out of your body for the first time. And it was, it was so funny because my daughter had my husband's exact hard Jamaican face, right? Like, I'm like, oh, my baby girl. And then I was crying and laughing at the same time. I'm like, yo, you don't need a DNA test for this one. Because it was like, she was like, like, when they're first born, right? And I was like, oh, I hope her face gets softer. This is, oh my gosh, right? But like, she's like, oh, do you hear my dog ruining this whole thing? But I have kids and a dog. This is my real But that moment, and then bringing her home and knowing you have to take care of this person. Yeah. And their life, like that's a huge thing their life depends on you. So that's definitely one of the greatest moments of my life, just having her in my arms for the first time.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Okay, so now we come to the point in the interview. Just let me get the balloons.
Oh yes, I love this part.
Well, they're pink today.
He knows because last time he made them blue and I made a comment. Okay, let's do it.
Okay, so all right, Crystal, I have 3 balloons in my hand.
Okay.
And depending on what you choose, I'll know which charity cause that I'm donating to.
Okay.
The 3 charities for season 2 are Up with Women, the Mississauga Humane Society, and the Fundraiser Warriors.
Awesome.
So Crystal, again, with my hands, which one do you want to pop?
Let's do all the way to the left.
So the 3rd charity for season 2 that Star Scorpio is donating to is Up with Women.
I love it.
They do amazing work. All right. Crystal, thank you for coming out today.
Thank you, guys.
Yes. And Tasha, thank you for being the guest host today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes. So
it was so nice to meet you, Crystal.
Nice to meet you as well. Thank you.
So episode 3 of season 2 is complete in the books, and we out.